NYC subway rider burnt to death, stood around watching her burn to death, and the cops were standing around like they had no idea what to do. Tish says they took the life of an innocent New Yorker.
Mayorkas is saying these people are properly vetted before they're released in the United States. But we don't have access to criminal information from Venezuela. The good news is you got President Trump coming in office on January 20th. Their days are numbered. I can't wait till we get in administration. They're going to be arrested, they're going to be detained, and they're going to remove.
Their days are numbered. That's what Tom Homan says, not playing around. As soon as Trump comes in, the clock is started. He gave a nice interview here with Fox News detailing some of the plans, and it couldn't come quickly enough because we're seeing horrific things happening all across the country. This was the story over from New York Post. You may have seen the headlines. Gruesome story, but apparently this Guatemalan migrant, they call him, arrested for setting a sleeping subway rider on fire, and now she is deceased. NYC subway rider burnt to death, stood around watching her burn to death, and the cops were standing around like they had no idea what to do. Like, wow, it's a walking torch. This is horrific. A Guatemalan migrant has been arrested for allegedly lighting a sleeping subway rider on fire Sunday morning in Brooklyn, watched as she burned to death. One of the most depraved crimes a person could possibly commit is what the NYPD commissioner said. This is the picture of the guy. Says the savage killing happened 7:30 a.m. idling F train at the Coney Island station, shocked commuters and workers, and Tish says they took the life of an innocent New Yorker. As the train pulled into the station, the suspect calmly walked up to the victim, who was in a seated position, and used what we believe to be a lighter to ignite the clothing, which became engulfed in flames in seconds. Cops saw the smoke, followed it to the flame-covered woman. They extinguished the blaze, not after a while, and finally put her out. The horrifying video showed the suspect calmly looking on as flames consumed her. She stood inside the door, and as the cops walked by, he pulled out a radio. Transit cop walked by. He's like, someone's on fire over here. In another video, cops yelled to the crowd, "Did anybody see anything? Did anybody see anything?" Smoke's pouring out of the subway. Suspect is sitting on a bench. Cops huddled around, pulling his hood up. Cop says, "Do me a favor, walk down here," the cop said. "I need this space cleared up." The man stood up. Unbeknownst to the officers, the suspect was seated right there. Body-worn cameras on the responding officers produced a very clear, detailed look at the killer. Later in the day, 3 high schoolers called the police to say they saw the man pictured in the images. When in transit, they responded they found the suspect on another train. So cops called ahead, halted the train. They said he had a lighter in the pocket, and so they got the guy. The woman has not been identified yet, but it is horrific. And what we're seeing is this happening, or crimes that are horrific, not exactly people being lit on fire, but rapes and murders and other horrific things are happening all over the country. And Tom Homan, the incoming border czar, has had enough of it. Here's what he says about this.
Well, look, you and I have talked about this many times. It all goes back to the vetting program. You know, you got Secretary Mayorkas saying these people are properly vetted before they're released in the United States. But we don't have access to criminal information from Venezuela. We don't have access to criminal databases and information in most countries around the world. So when they say they're properly vetted, they're running them through NCIC, which is our system, or III state system, but doesn't include their criminal histories in their home nations. And so Secretary Mayorkas has been misleading the American people, saying they're properly vetted and these people are safe. This is a clear example of it. And as you and I discussed before, TDA, when we first discovered the United States, we said it's going to rapidly expand across the country. The good news is you got President Trump coming in office on January 20th. TDA is on notice, and ICE officers across the country are prepared to go out and target public safety threats with TDA. It's on top of that public safety threat. So their days are numbered. I can't wait till we get an administration to take care of
Days are numbered.
They're going to be arrested, they're going to be detained, and they're going to remove. I've been talking to several different countries. If Venezuela don't take them back, we got other countries who are stepping up, say they will. So they will be deported.
I want to touch on that because obviously Venezuela is a country that doesn't have a repatriation agreement. They don't take them back. Earlier this week on Monday, Tom, I was able to ask President-elect Trump specifically about what about Venezuela not taking people back. Here's what the President-elect told me. Listen here.
Discussion, sir, in terms of your mass deportation plans, have you had any
any preliminary discussions with countries like Venezuela, from where the Tren de Aragua gang is now popping up?
They're all taking them back. Yep.
Not playing around.
So
We'll see.
have you had any preliminary discussions with anyone in Venezuela, or is there going to be a negotiation early on when President-elect Trump is sworn in to sort of try and get some sort of agreement?
Look, President Trump's a strong president, right? During the first administration, El Salvador didn't want to take back MS-13 members. It took President Trump 48 hours until I was filling planes full of MS-13 members going to El Salvador. So I think there'll be a negotiation. I think it'll be a one-way negotiation. President Trump's a strong president. He's not going to put up with this. But if the negotiation or
48 hours,
the discussion takes a little while, we got several other countries willing to take him on day one. But I think President Trump will be successful like he was in the last administration. He got Mexico to remain in Mexico. He got Mexico to put military on the border. He got El Salvador to take their MS-13 members back. He got the 3 Central American countries to agree to the third safe country agreements. He puts America first, and he's going to do it again starting January 20th.
Let's go.
The bust of the TDA gang members here in New York, we have learned that law enforcement, a combined joint federal law enforcement task force, was able to identify this apartment where they were holed up, specifically because one of them had an ankle monitor, and that assisted with them getting them. Are you looking at ways that you can enhance that, and how will that work?
Well, there's going to be a hell of a lot less ankle monitors, so we're going to lock them up. We only put ankle monitors on people that we release. We're going to end catch and release. Of course, they're going to be the exceptions, right? There's a significant health issue that we can't care for them at the time. So, number one issue, we're going to end catch and release, so there'll be less of this going on. And second, we're going to enforce the rules of those ankle monitors. Look, if you're in this country, even if you claim asylum, there's conditions of release. And committing a crime is a violation of those conditions. Being involved in gang activity is a violation of the conditions. Even if they're claiming asylum, you can lock them back up into detention because they have violated the rules of release. So there's going to be a lot tougher issue under Trump administration because less people are going to be released, if any, and the conditions of release should be adhered to. You violate conditions of release, you'll be locked up within the next hour or so when we find you. So the good thing is about New York City, I've had a discussion with Mayor Adams. He's stepping up. He's going to be with us shoulder to shoulder, look for these public safety threats.
Yeah, Adams is playing ball now.
His officers be immigration officers. I don't either. I want him to help us locate public safety threats.
And his prosecution will die, I'm sure.
Missing children, he is dedicated that he's going to work on that too, because many of these missing children we'll find in New York City.
All right, so missing children you'll find in New York. But guess what? Alejandro Mayorkas doesn't even care about missing children because they're not his prerogative. It's not his problem. His problem right now is opening the border to let as many people in as possible. And if that results in missing kids, well, someone else can figure that out. Here is our useless Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security.
ICE was also unable to account for more than 32,000 unaccompanied kids who failed to appear in court from 2019 to 2023, according to the report we read. The incoming border czar, Tom Homan, says these children are being exploited and trafficked. Is that true?
Well, Margaret, we certainly have received reports of children being trafficked, even those as to whom we know where they are. That is outside the responsibility of the Department of Homeland Security.
What?
What we do is we turn children over within 72 hours, as the law requires, to the Department of Health and Human Services. And then HHS places those children.
Oh,
of course,
so
we investigate
so we don't do the trafficking.
Of trafficking. But there are children who are reunited with a parent here in the United States or a legal guardian, and they move. And sometimes the government loses track. Individuals do not comply with their reporting obligations or otherwise. I think it is inaccurate to say that all of them are trafficked or victimized.
No,
just
50% or whatever.
We might lose track of an individual. That is not necessarily specific to the administration. That has been a long-standing challenge in the immigration system.
So you're admitting it.
One example of why that system is so broken, why the duration of time
you've been in there for 4 years, man.
is unacceptably long and has to be remedied. Remember, we're dealing with a system that was last reformed in 1996.
Sick. So as long as it's not all the kids being trafficked, no. It's not like 300,000, Rob. It's like, 295,000. The others have good parents. We just lost where they're at. So leave us alone. And if you have any problems with this, go talk to my compadre who's running Health and Human Services, Xavier Becerra. How's he doing with it? So should we go ask him where all the missing kids are? Can we get him on the phone? Sick people to sit there and deliver talking points about missing trafficked kids. You've been in charge of it for 4 years, and you are now just going to say, well, it's inaccurate, and then try to cover it up. Sick people, they're going to be gone soon. A real administration is going to come in, and we'll see what they discover these folks did.